The last goal I'll cover here, because it was significant to me, it's the one where the light went on, and I said, you know what? I really think I have to make a movie on this. When you have 9 children, like I have, the Lord's blessed me with, and you see where things are going, you want to make a difference. But when I read this next goal, it's the kind of the thing God used to provoke me to quit my job, take my savings, and make a film when I've never made a film before, because I thought, I've got to do something. I cannot allow this to happen, and have done nothing to try to stop this. Goal number 28, eliminate prayer or any phase of religious expression in the schools on the ground that it violates the principles of separation of church and state. We all know that's what happened. But it didn't happen until 4 years later. In 1962, when the Supreme Court took prayer out of our public schools, it was the first case in American history there was no precedence given for their decision. They didn't base it on any other decision. And so when people asked, why did you take prayer out of our public schools? They said, because it violates the principles of separation of church and state. Almost word for word what this goal had stated 4 years earlier. And I started to think. I said, I don't know if I'm going crazy or what. It sounds nutty. But there is no way you can have a list of these specific of goals that are radical at the time and accomplish all of them unless you truly have a tremendous amount of influence, whether you want to admit it or not. And I realize there's something going on here. It seems crazy to me that so few could have done so much to change us, but the fact is it has happened. And it has happened to the letter and the T of exactly what they said they wanted to do. And so that motivated me to go, okay, family, we're a homeschooling family. I said, you know what? We've got a big project we're going to do here it took us almost just under 2 years, full-time working, our whole family, to make this film. But I realized we need to try to wake up the troops. That's why we made it as a tool to try to wake up others. The second reason that what has happened, the first is the churches. And I encourage you, if you are in a church where the pastor does not stand up for all the biblical truth, he doesn't just pick and choose. If he is not someone that stands up with courage and confidence that God's word should be defended and stood up for, regardless of whether it's popular or not, regardless of whether people like it or not, you need to find a new church. That's my opinion. I don't care if you've been there 30 years. We need to get into the churches where there is pastors that are willing to stand up for courage for the truth. We need to be behind them so their numbers grow. And they have more influence because the money is there, the things to be able to project their message. We can't any longer compromise and sit in these majority of churches that are so pathetic. It's wrong. I really believe it is wrong to do that. And I'll tell you this, if you sit there that long, you're going to lose your children and your grandchildren to those same pathetic churches because they're not being taught anything. They're being taught the Bible is a book that affects 1 hour on Sunday and that's it. And that is a total lie. The Bible affects every single facet of our lives. It is absolute truth, and it is the only source of absolute truth, period. Amen. How have they done this? That's the question. I started going, man, how have they done this? Here's basically what it boils down to. Do you remember Antonio Gramsci in the film? He was the Italian communist that wrote up a blueprint of how to take down a Christian culture from the inside. One of his disciples was Saul Alinsky. And Saul Alinsky, I think, hit it on the nose. This is what he said. He said, change comes from the conflict. Change comes from the conflict. And what that really is, it's pretty simple. It's the Hegelian dialectic, or they're actually starting to call it the third way. They love coming up with these new, clever-sounding things. The third way. This is what it is. Say we have an idea, whatever it might be. I'll just say limited government. We believe in limited government. This is the idea we hold true to. We think it works best. So they'll take the opposite idea, big government, a totalitarian government. They'll stand there. And what they do is the conflict, they create a conflict between limited government and big government, keep bashing us, saying, no, we need, government should be doing things for us. They should be taking care of the poor. It should be doing all these things. And they keep pounding us and pounding us until we finally at some point stand up a little bit and go, hey, we don't want that. That's ridiculous. And what do? We step back, they step back a little bit and say, okay, you're right. Let's compromise. And so we end up, we're the nice guys, that, okay, we'll compromise. Yeah, we don't want that horrible thing they were pushing, but I guess we're going to have to accept this. It's not quite as bad as what they were pushing, but, and so, boom. Then also we move from here to here. And here's the new starting place. 6 months, a year goes by, they move out further, bam, start pounding again. This is ridiculous. We should have this, that, whatever. It's unjust that this is happening. And they start pounding us till we finally stand up and go, okay, stop it. We don't want that. Okay, and they step back. Okay, let's compromise. And it slowly keeps moving over and over. Every single change that comes from a conflict is 100% of the time going in their direction. It never one time goes in ours, because they're always the one pushing. We're standing there living our life. They're pushing. We have to compromise because it's blown up in our face. We don't have to do. That's what we do. And it just keeps moving and moving. And that's why when you look over a 50-year period of America, you say, is that where we were? How have we gotten all the way over to here? I don't remember that happening. Well, we don't, because it happened through gradualism. One small step at a time. Over and over and over and over again. And that's what's been happening. A lot of you ask, well, where's this heading? George Bernard Shaw summarized it better than anyone I've ever heard. He was a member of the Fabian Socialists, one of their founders. And when asked, what is socialism? This is what he said. And I've never heard a better definition. Socialism means equality of income or nothing. Under socialism, you would not be allowed to be poor. You would be forcibly fed, clothed, lodged, taught, and employed, whether you like it or not. If it were discovered that you had not character enough to be worth all this trouble, you might possibly be executed in a kindly manner. But while you were permitted to live, you would have to live well. That is humorous to us because we can't even comprehend the mindset of that. That's not humorous to people in America under the age of 35. They believe that. Do you understand that mentality? While you were permitted to live, who's giving you the right to live? Government, not God, government. You would be forcibly fed. They're going to pick your food, your clothes, where you live, what you're taught, what you do for a living, period, whether you like it or not. That's exactly where we are headed. Do you know, just a year or so ago, there was a survey done in Belgium of the nurses in Belgium. And they're much further down the road than we are in the socialist direction. You know what the survey came up with? 50% of the nurses in Belgium admitted to administering lethal drugs to their patient without their knowledge. That's half of the nurses in the country of Belgium admitted to killing their own patients by administering lethal drugs. They admitted it. Why? Because we don't have the money to take care of them. We just be kind to them and just quietly put them to sleep. And it sounds radical, but it's what's going to be going on here sooner than you think. Why? Because it has to. As you move toward a socialistic society, you run out of money. The productivity is so pathetic and so low, everything, the economy starts crumbling, everything, and you simply run out of money. Just like Margaret Thatcher said, you run out of spending other people's money, and there's no motivation to work, and so they have to start forcing you to work, and still you're short of money, because people aren't naturally motivated when you're being forced to work. And so it comes to a point like it's coming to in Europe right now. You're going to see in the next 10 years euthanasia like you have never seen in world history in Europe. They're going to start eliminating 65 and over. They're going to eliminate them. You're going to see it because they have to. They simply do not have the funds to take care of them. And here's the problem. in the moral relativistic society they have created and we have created, the average person, when you're presented with this scenario, hey, we've got a 10-year-old that has cancer and a 60-year-old that has cancer. We only have money to help one of them. It's so expensive, and you know how expensive medicine is nowadays. It's going to probably be $1 million worth of treatment for one. We only have the choice, who should we give the treatment to? Yeah, don't you think for a minute it's going to be the 60-year-old? It's going to be the 10-year-old. And so they're going to say, well, just give pain medication to the 60-year-old or put them out of their misery kindly or whatever. But that will happen because, again, it has to, because you really don't have the money to do that. But we're creating a scenario by heading down the road to socialism that demands that to happen because there's no other way to do it. I think many of us in this room will not die of natural causes if we continue down the road we are. I really believe that. And it's scary and it's sad, but it's just the direction we are heading. As the debt increases, as the things continue the way they are, it just has to end up this way. Medicine prices keep skyrocketing. There's no other way, unless we turn things back. But I'm saying if we keep going down this wonderful Obamacare utopia, that's what will be happening. Those death panels will be active, and they will be doing things because it'll simply be, I'm sorry, we don't have money to do this. And the majority of Americans won't have a problem with that. And which majority is that? The younger ones, which won't be affected by it for a while anyway, so they don't mind making the hard choices. But they've bought into this moral relativism in their universities and in what they've been taught. So they don't think it's a big decision anyway, because old people, they've used themselves, they're not being productive anymore anyway. And their very act of living is destroying the planet, them breathing and driving cars, and they're destroying the earth anyway. We need to get rid of them. And they won't have a problem doing that. I'll just do a couple more things here, and then we can do some question and answers or just talk afterward, whatever you'd like to do. I think on our side, one of our biggest problems is we always think in things in terms of the next election. So our longest mindset's about 2 years. Oh, the next election, well, we're going to get some people in there that are going to change things. And it's going to take care of all our problems. And I wish that was true. It's not. And the problem is those that are on the other side of this, they have 100-year plans when they make their plans. And they're passionate about it and committed, and they'll do whatever it takes to get the job done because they know once they have America, they have it all. So they don't care how long it takes. There's a quote by a gentleman in the Czech Republic. I'm going to read you real quick. I think it summarizes where we are and what has happened better than anything I've ever read. The danger to America is not Barack Obama, but a citizenry capable of entrusting an inexperienced man like him with the presidency. It will be far easier to limit and undo the follies of an Obama presidency than to restore the necessary common sense and good judgment to a depraved electorate willing to have such a man for their president. The problem is much deeper and far more serious than Mr. Obama, who is a mere symptom of what ails America. Blaming the Prince of Fools should not blind anyone to the vast confederacy of fools that made him their prince. The Republic can survive a Barack Obama. It is less likely to survive a multitude of fools such as those who made him their president. Amen. But that's sad. That shows what our job is. In educating and informing and teaching and training others. We need to start with our children and our grandchildren. We've got to do that. If some of you have already lost your children and grandchildren, find other people in your churches, that you can spend time with, have pizza parties, have them over to the high school group, and teach and train them to understand why they believe what they do. They need to understand a Christian worldview and how it compares to a secular humanist worldview and an Islamic worldview and the different things so they understand why the things the Bible says are true. Science backs it up. History backs it up. Everything backs it up. But if they don't know that when they go to college and they hear these professors, these fork-tongued professors, just twisting and turning, destroying everything you've taught them, you're going to lose them. And we can't continue to do that any longer.